Hi, I'm Christopher Hein, and today we're going to talk about Shihonage. So I just want to talk about Shihonage today. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks just like you came to one of my classes and I decided it was Shihonage day. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get Josh over here. We're going to go to work. Josh? All right, so let's talk about Shihonage. I don't have any super special stuff planned. I just kind of want to talk to you about what Shihonage is and kind of some of the understandings I came to with Shihonage and what I think it's actually doing. So I think Shihonage is basically born of Soto Mowari. It's particularly fond of Soto Mowari from Katate Dori, and you should always think of it initially as Hodoki, right? And so that's where I think that the root of the Shihonage is, and then everything else can be born off of that. And there's lots of other ways we can get at it. You know, we can get it from the Shomanuchi, we can get it from all kinds of stuff, right? Okay, so let's look at Katate Dori, right? Okay, so I have Katate Dori. Now, the Urawaza Shihonage, I believe, is much more native than the Omotewaza Shihonage, although there's good reason for both of them. But let's just look at the basic idea of Taino Hinko, and first I'll do it like you see in a lot of schools. So Katate Dori Taino Hinko, which is this, boom, that's the real classic description of that. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, I mean, there's lots of reasons I could do it, but if I'm not working on this hand, I'm really not doing myself a service. So really, I believe that technique should often be shown a little more like this, right? So see, I'm popping free, so all I do is make a slight adjustment here, boom, and I pop free. Okay. Now, a problem that I can have with that is as I go to do that, he stays stuck to me. Okay, so what do I do when he stays stuck to me? Of course, I could transition into other techniques, right? So like triangle or anything else. So I come here, he comes around, and boom, I could try and get free with a triangle or something. But continuing to turn is a really natural thing to do, and I see my kids do it all the time. My kids actually set up Shihonage rather a lot when we do Hodoki stuff because they just like to turn and turn and turn and turn and turn, right? So if I turn here and Josh keeps holding on to me, continuing to turn is a really, really natural thing. Now, if we think that we have to get into that final position, right, so the position where Josh is like this, which some schools call nanakyo, right, so up in this kind of contorted position where you're pulling the shoulder out of place. If we think that it has to end in that, then we're going to have real difficulty with our Shihonage. And the reason is because to make that timing work out, meaning I set up in my mind like I want to get a Shihonage, right, and so to get the Shihonage, this is what I have to do. We're very often not going to get it because it's a lot of time for him to decide to do something else, right? So meaning that I'm like, okay, I'm going to do Shihonage, and Josh feels me doing that, and he decides to do some other shit, right? Let go of me and come around and grab me. He can do all kinds of, right? So like, let's say Josh is doing Shihonage, and I feel, oh, he's setting me up for Shihonage. Well, I'm going to do this, right? All kinds of things, okay? But if my whole idea of the Shihonage is I want to get this hand free, and he thinks he's thwarting me by keeping a hold of my hand, well, I'll keep entering, and he'll keep sticking. What happens is he gets Shihonage, and he gets Shihonage really, really naturally, okay? So that, I believe, is the most natural root of Shihonage. So if I wanted to just give you what the root of Shihonage is, that's what I'd give you. So that's where we started. Now, tons of stuff can happen because of that root, right? So one thing we can get out of this is Shihonage Omotewaza, and I'll show you a classic way that's shown in Daito to you. If I can end up getting Josh to do it, we'll see. Okay, so I come 90, so this is the setup for our Omotewaza, and then I apply this to Josh. Let's see if I can get it. Is he going to do it? There we go, we got him, right? And we see that Shihonage, right? Okay, so that is, you know, and when you see it in like a Daito demonstration, so do Omote Shihonage, you see this. Right, it's like, you know, they really like to play it up. But that's basically the idea. I'm cranking the crap out of his arm. And because I'm cranking it so hard, he just starts turning in the Shihonage, right? And so he does essentially the same thing that I was doing. I just wanted to turn before to keep a hold of him. But now because I'm turning him so hard, he's turning all on his own, right? So look at him turn, all on his own, bang, okay? Now that sets up a myriad of ideas for the Omote, right? And so my favorite way to show the Omote is we go here and I come into here to try and get Hodoki this way, right? And so this is basically a Rokyo. Now, as I try to get this, he pulls his arm in really hard, right? So he's strong like this. And as he pulls that arm in, I just turn with it, bang. And we get the Omotewaza Shihonage out of that, right? So because he's interrupted my cycle of trying to crank that arm, him pulling in to stop that cycle actually facilitates me turning with it to make the Shihonage again. All right, now, we're just talking about core Shihonage and what Shihonage should have in it. I think one of the most core ideas to Shihonage that everyone forgets is that you should be separating the body from the hand like that, right? Okay, now if we're worried about him holding on to me because I want to turn and make the picturesque Shihonage, I'm not going to get that very often, which leads to a lot of bad Shihonage. So that's why you see stuff like this, right? This is a really bad example of Shihonage. Instead of stuff like this, right, to turn. Now, Josh and Maya can tell you, they've had my Shihonagis before, it feels like your arm's going to get ripped out of socket, right? And I think if I did it as hard as I could, I might very well rip an arm out of socket, right? Because I'm separating that arm as much as I can. And this is what leads to the really nice balance breaking, right? So the kazushi that you want in your Shihonage is because of that extreme extension. Now, if I'm super locked on the idea of I've got to turn, I'm going to put more into my turning fast to try and get Shihonage and put myself in a weak position than if I just want to clear my hand, right? So if I just want to clear my hand, probably what's going to happen 90% of the time is that, right? Which is a better technique for me because it's less involved for me, it comes off quicker, less for him to do with it than if I try to get the Shihonage. And only if the uke is so flexible and fast that he can stick with me will that naturally arise, right? So that's another reason that we would get into that Shihonage. Okay, another big problem you see with Shihonage is people love to end side by side. I think it seems cool to them or it's what they pictured in their head or whatever. But so they turn Shihonage and we end up in this position. Okay, this position sucks because Josh can turn right towards me, right? So he can hit me, he can stab me, he can kick me, all kinds of stuff's real bad for me. I want to finish my Shihonage here. This is where I want to be. Now if Josh tries to hit me, kick me, bite me, whatever he tries to do, it doesn't matter because I'm clearly behind him, so it's real hard for him to do anything. This also makes available to me a nasty kotegaeshi up here. And that kotegaeshi can disarm him, so if I was trying to take a weapon out of his hand, I can disarm him really well with that. And if he's holding on to me real securely, I can wrench my hand out really, really strongly with that kotegaeshi. So only when I get a really stable position like that do I get a true kotegaeshi setup inside, and that's sometimes called tenkai kotegaeshi in some schools of Aikido, where I'm getting so tenkai means kind of like kaiten, same kind of thing, where I'm going around up high and I'm twisting that kotegaeshi. So sometimes it's called tenkai kotegaeshi. But again, everything's facilitated because of the turning action and not because of my desire to throw him with this action. And so what we tend to confuse in our head is this is Shihonage, and it's really not. The turn is Shihonage, whether he's turning because I'm cranking on him so much, or because he's pulling me back and I'm going to get pulled off balance, or because I'm just trying to make a Soto Mawari action and he's sticking to me. It's always the four directions I look at that create Shihonage. So Shihonage is not this. Shihonage is the position or whatever happens from me turning like this. And that generally will lead to Hadoki. So if you think of it more as good Hadoki instead of a big throw, you're going to get your Shihonages in live practice way more. And also the technique's going to facilitate and make much more sense to you as you practice it that way, right? So meaning that the technique will give you what you want more often as Hadoki than it will give you what you want as a big fancy throw. So I think that's it. That's basically what I tell you. If you were in my class, I would make you do a bunch of Shihonages. But other than that, I would give you basically that same lesson. So I'm Christopher Hein. This is Joshua Teehee. My Solano McDaniel is again behind the center camera, studiously studying. All right, we'll see you in the next video.